With the demands of 3 kids and just general expenses of life, my husband and I never feel like we have a ton of wiggle room as we budget each month. But a practice throughout our whole marriage has been to make sure, no matter how meager it might be, that we allot a portion of money for each of us to a fun money category each month. This is money that can be used however we independently want. No questions, no judgments on how it is spent, just for our own fun and joy. But what we've found over the years is that rather than selfishly hoarding that money, we often end up using it to surprise the other with a spontaneous gift, albeit small, or a special treat, or generously sharing something we purchased with the other. We've also been delighted to see this inclination develop in our oldest, who we recently started giving a very small allowance to each week so she can start learning about and managing money. Again, rather than hoarding, the freedom of having her own resources has prompted this generosity that we didn't see in her before. We'll catch her slip some money in the collection basket at church, or she'll take her little brother to the school store and buy him a trinket he wants. And just last night, she overheard me whining to Andy that I had already used my fun money for the month, and right before bedtime, she slipped me a $5 bill. It made me cry. It's been such a gift to see her receive and use her gifts as an opportunity to serve. Even more than money, as a parent of 3 little ones, the freedom I long for these days is the freedom of time, of space, of silence, essentially a retreat. Retreats offer me a break from the noise and chaos of parenting, the constant demands of other people, the pressure of to-do lists and deadlines. I am always desperate for that freedom by the time my annual retreat comes up. When I'm in the midst of my noisy day-to-day life, my extremely introverted soul romanticizes the life of a hermit. But inevitably, I find within the span of my annual retreat that freedom and time away doesn't make me selfishly want more and more. I don't lament when it is time to return home. Rather, that freedom has created a shift in my heart, and I long to return to the people I love. Freedom opens me to love more fully. I return not out of obligation or resentment, which can be how I operate before a retreat. I return out of desire. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke beautifully writes about the difficult art of giving space and love. He writes, once the realization is accepted that even between the closest human beings, infinite distances continue, a wonderful living side by side can grow, if they succeed in loving the distance between them, which makes it possible for each to see the other whole against the sky. In our text from Galatians, Paul reminds us that freedom is not about self-indulgence, but about loving and serving one another. This echoes the call of Pedro Arrupe's poem, which invites us to fall in love with God, a God who longs for us to be free, and to let that love determine everything we do, whether it's sharing our resources, carving out a time for retreat, or giving space in relationships. True freedom is not about escaping from responsibility or holding on to what is ours. Instead, it is about letting love transform our hearts and actions, making us more generous, patient, and attuned to the needs of others. Like my retreat time or my daughter's small acts of generosity, freedom, when rooted in love, becomes an invitation to serve joyfully and to see one another whole against the sky.